Please be seated.
Good morning. So I was going to try to use the TV for the slides, but we're having some tech issues, so I'm going to have to rely on that back projector on the back. And so we'll see how it all goes. And so it's a rare time for me to be up here and do a presentation, which I've never done. This is the first time, so hope to do great, all goes well, and do good. So about 2 years ago, on this exact date, on 2020, there was this organization that was about to be rebranded, about to become new. It had a name. It was called Adventures in Ministry, or AIM for short. And they had done some stuff in the past, but they decided, well, let's do something else. Let's take it to the next step. And so that organization would pass away, and that new organization would be called Ministry League, as you see on the screens to your left and to your right. Now you may ask, what is Ministry League? Ministry League is a nonprofit organization for members working together to equip the church and share Bible study content of all kinds, dedicated to providing support and growing youth ministries. And growing youth ministries. Young people are the future and spreading God's word. See, our youth are the future of tomorrow and for the future generations. And we should take time to invest in our youth and teach them about love, how to be like Jesus, God's word. And if we do that, well, they'll grow in a good environment and help promote God's word as they continue to grow. Or else, what will happen if our youth aren't invested, they'll go on into the world and learn what the world has to say, and then our tomorrow and our future generations won't look so bright. And so Ministry League wants to tackle on into that issue and help out the youth build what I would like to call their foundation, the foundation of learning the scriptures, learning God's word, how to be like Jesus. And so here's what Ministry League plans to do on how to do that. Our first is what we do is to plan, plant, promote youth ministries and events in areas where non-existent. You see, there are places where there's not a youth event or something, or their nearest one is very far away. And so what Ministry wants to plan on doing is taking some of the work and go out into these places where it's non-existent and help these communities with new opportunities to help their youth along with their adults. The next one, go to the next one, thank you. Involve our youth with mission trips locally and outside the U.S. to share God's word and helping churches promote these activities with existing connections and tools to each area, whether it's in the state or country. You see, you might say, well, there's already good mission trips outside the U.S., but what's not talked about or mentioned enough is mission trips here locally in the United States of America. There's places here in our country where people don't have these opportunities or places or events to go for them to attend or learn more about scriptures or Jesus or whatever. And what Ministry wants to start doing is start involving youth and other congregations to start going out and promoting, start establishing some of these events within the U.S., along from time to time outside the United States. And then lastly, what tools am I talking about? Well, Ministry League has an app. It's free. If you go to your app store or on Google Play, search up Ministry League, there's an app which has daily devotions, a psalm book, 30 to 40 different podcasts with various different speakers, lessons, and a whole lot more. This app is loaded with content. Once you download it, I guarantee you something is going to catch your eye and you're going to be invested and enjoyable. And we're going to talk more about the app here in just a few moments. And so now that we have the app, or tools, who's going to lead the way into going out and sharing God's word? See, Ministry League has another faction to it. It's called Into Global Ministry. Now you may ask, what is Into Global? Into Global is, next slide, is a team of God's servants working to help, plant, grow, and create spiritual strength for the Lord's kingdom and to promote faithfulness, worship, and fellowship. And so it's a mission work to encourage, edify, and energize the people. And so Into Global wants to go out and do that, what I just read, to these places. And we're actually going to talk about some of these works that Into Global and Ministry League have already done. So one of the first missions they've done was to East Point, Florida, back in February. We had 3 congregations from Georgia go out there and help out East Point. East Point is a town, I think, east of Apalachicola in Florida. And it's an area that was devastated by a hurricane, and we're in need of like stuff and whatever. And the environment of East Point is like very different from like our environment or something. And so once they got in contact with one of the congregations out in Georgia, they took the other congregations, went out and helped. And what they would end up doing is having, like in the previous slide, fellowship, faithfulness, and worship, helping the people out in East Point and just encouraging them and help them in any way possible they need. And because of that, there were actually some baptisms out in East Point, and so that mission trip was a very successful one. And another mission trip that occurred was back in all the way in 2019. Ministry League was still forming, but it was there. And Into Global went to London to the Wembley Church of Christ and established an exposure youth camp, or an EYC, which we'll talk about briefly here in just a few moments. And kind of the same thing, they went out. There was only 2 people on that trip, which is Paul Sperlin and John Podine, which you can see in the pictures. And they went out and took all what was taught at Exposure and take it to London and help them out to learn, like I said, kind of like build the foundation, help them learn more about Jesus, how to love, how to share God's word, and all that. And if you go to ministryleague.com and go to the Into Global section, you can actually read more about the London trip and all that. And I took a portion of it just to read it, and there it said that lessons had a great impact on the youth and on the adults that were there attending. And because of that, now at London, at the Wembley and surrounding towns, they are now having their youth weekends with the youth and adults. So that's pretty cool and awesome to have learned and be doing great things, and to take that into and do their own little series. And hopefully sometime in the future, Into Glow can head on back to London and see how progressions have been doing and done. So that, and next slide. In September of 2022, we'll be having a small group go into Glasgow, Scotland to plan another EYC. And Scotland 2023 hopefully would be the year to begin that. And we plan on East Point, Scotland, London to be the first of many missions Ministry League will sponsor. And it's only the beginning. I guarantee you there's going to be more and more places that will be growing, and many other stuff with Into Global leading the way, sharing God's word. And so that's kind of what Into Global is kind of the main faction to lead the mission, while Ministry League sponsors and uses the tools to help out. Now let's talk about some of the Christian events for youth and adult. One that was mentioned briefly is Exposure Youth Camp, or EYC for short. And just a brief summary of what it is. It's an event that takes place December 27th through the 30th every year in Huntsville, Alabama, regardless of where it falls on the calendar. Camp is driven by engaging worship, challenging classes, and team time. It's a time where Christians connect with other Christians, classes that make you think and dig deep into the scriptures. If you go out and ask me or some of our youth in this auditorium, we can say Exposure is by far one of the greatest events to be held. It will get you uplifted. It's an amazing event. I would love to talk about it more deeply, but it will have to wait for another time. But just know Exposure, it's an amazing event. I encourage you. What I would like to encourage you all is to go to search Exposure Youth Camp on the internet and just read around and look all what it does and what they do and promote. And also go to their YouTube channel and check out the atrium singing. It's one of the greatest things that all attendees at Exposure look forward to, is the atrium singing, which is fill up the 10 floors and sing to the Lord however long. And so I encourage you guys to go ahead and do that after the service. And a new event that's about to happen at the end of May is called the Ministry League Experience, from May 26th to the 29th. It's divided into 2 conferences. We have the Creators on the 26th, and then the Navigate on the 27th through the 29th. And let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And so what is Ministry League, you may ask? So it might be hard to read on the screens, but on the left side is kind of the flyer for what it is, and then on the right is going to be a schedule of what it is. And so what Ministry League Experience is, or what it's planning to do, is we were never meant to live or work alone. Ministry League was created to connect Christians for more efficient service. The Ministry League Experience is intended to be an intensive weekend of preparing to go out into the world with the greatest message ever heard. It's for anyone and everyone that wants to take their next steps into service, creating relationships with others, and create a greater impact, an experience to put talents and passion into action. It's the starting point. And so Ministry League Experience is going to be a new event that me and a few others here at Palisades will be attending later in May. And it's just, like I said, it's to take the next steps. And it is going to be loaded with speakers. And I want to take a moment and mention some of those speakers who will be speaking at the Ministry League Experience. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so the Ministry League Experience will be held at the Piedmont Road Church of Christ in Marietta, Georgia. And some of the speakers going from left to right, it might be a bit too hard to read, or hopefully, but some of the speakers going from left to right that will be speaking at the Ministry League Experience are Billy Bearden, Lori Boyd, Tyler Brasfield, Travis Creasy, Jerry Elder, Jonathan Germany, Jay Hall, Will Harrow, Ben Hayes, Dale Jenkins, Jeff Jenkins, and Lonnie Jones. And then on the next slide, we have more speakers. And at the bottom, we have the date, the address of the event, and the website, ministryleague.com. And finishing off our speakers, we have, going from left to right, Cody Michael, Hardison Moles, Will Mayhem, John Podine, Caleb Sampson, David Shannon, Paul Sperlin, Jake Sutton, Robert Tips, Matt Wallen, Larry Washington, Dan Winkler. And so these are our speakers and teachers that will be speaking at the Ministry League Experience. And most of them have their own podcast, which you can go to Ministry League on the app, which we'll talk about in a minute, and listen to some of their podcasts, along with loaded content that they'll be teaching. And so you may ask, what does Palisades have to do with all this? Daniel did mention briefly on them starting a podcast, which I had no clue about, so he kind of already introduced you guys to that. But our board of directors and resource contributors are people you know or have heard about. We're dedicated in our beliefs and desire to serve and spread God's word. So who is on our board of directors? So going from left to right, we have Paul Sperlin, who is our president and CEO. And Paul, who was our connections minister back at Palisades a few years back, was the one who formed a ministry league along with their team. Continuing, we have Miss Gail Williams, who is our secretary and treasurer. We have Larry Washington, who is our creative director. We have Caleb Sampson being our network director, and Dale Jenkins being our board member for Ministry League. And because of these 6 and forming Ministry League and what they dedicate their beliefs and desire to serve and spread God's word, is how Ministry League was formed, and their missions that they're going to do and the beliefs they will spread. And because of that, I find that very cool. And you know what else is pretty cool? Ministry League is a nonprofit 501c3 organization. And if you don't know what that is, just briefly, 501c3, basically they're tax exempt from the IRS, And the earnings or donations that they get, they don't go to any private shareholder or individual. It goes straight to Ministry League, and from there the board of directors can decide where that money goes. And for Ministry League, that money would go to the advancement of God's work and sharing his word, whether it be via mission trips or via events they would like to host. And so now, everyone here in this auditorium, you have the opportunity to help and support Ministry League. So how can you support? You can make a donation to Ministry League on Sunday, today, May the 1st, today. And if you have a check, you can make checks out to Palisades with Ministry League written on the memos section. Or if you would like to donate with cash, we have a specific basket on the back table back there. And there you can drop off your check and cash to help and support Ministry League. Other ways you can support Ministry League is to attend the new event, Ministry League Experience, which will prepare for all future missions, which I mentioned previously. Me and a few others will go out and attend. Another big one, which I highly suggest do, is share Ministry League with others. Got Facebook, got Twitter, got Instagram, got YouTube, whatever social media you got. Go out and search up Ministry League and like their page, share it with your friends and family. If we can trigger an algorithm on any of these social media platforms and let the world know about Ministry League, that'll be pretty awesome. And two little things I want to mention that are not on the slides. First off, the Ministry League app, which you can download, there will be some stickers on the back which have a QR code on it. You can scan the sticker and they'll take you to your App Store or Google Play, and you can download the Ministry League app and go on there, take a look at it, see what you can find, and leave a review. Leave a 5-star review on there so we can promote it more and people know about the amazing content. And another thing, go to ministryleague.com. There you'll find some good content, learn more about who's all contributed to what, and just some other good and amazing things out on ministryleague.com. And that's Ministry League. If you have any questions, whether you're interested or want to get involved more or anything else, highly suggest to see our Secretary and Treasurer, Ms. Gail Williams, who is sitting here in the front, and just let her know about any questions, concerns, or whatever that you might be interested in. And so that is Ministry League. This is their mission, along with Into Global and all that they want to do. And so now we have the opportunity to now focus our minds, our hearts, and our souls into today's sermon and see what we can learn, see what we can do. Share with what we learned today, to share it with others and help out the Lord's kingdom wherever we go. Thank you guys so much, and hope you enjoyed the Ministry League presentation. Thank you.